Hello everyone, welcome back to The Budget Sportsman. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. Today is an exciting video because we get to do our annual budget rangefinder comparison video. This is a video that I've been doing every year for about the last 4 or 5 years, and I always enjoy seeing what kind of quality budget rangefinders that we can find. Now, if you've been watching this series for a while and you watch some of the early videos, you may remember that the first year, probably 2 years at least, I really struggled to find a good quality budget rangefinder that I actually felt comfortable recommending. I tried some rangefinders from even some pretty recognizable brands that really fell short and left me very disappointed. And then I started getting a lot of comments on those comparison videos saying, hey, you got to try out the Tidewe rangefinder. And I was a bit skeptical, but eventually I did. I tried the HR-F700 and it quickly became my favorite budget rangefinder, and the first budget rangefinder that I ever felt really comfortable recommending. Shortly after that, I also tried the Tidewe Mini, and these rangefinders today are still the rangefinders that are in my pocket or my pack when I'm out hunting or practicing on the range. I think they're worth noting. We're going to keep them in today's video, but we're also going to look at several new models that I think are also worth your time and attention. And I would also encourage you to watch last year's video, the 2024 comparison video, because there were several strong contenders in last year's video as well. So in this video, what we're going to do is I'm not going to dive into every nitty-gritty spec of each of these models, but I am going to go through some of the things that matter to me, some of the basic features, the ergonomics of them. Then we're going to go outside, we're going to do some accuracy testing, and we'll come back in for some final thoughts and final conclusions. Before we get down into talking about each of these rangefinders, I do want to talk about some of my personal biases. Now, I already told you that I love these budget rangefinders from Tidewe and that these are the ones that are in my pack, but I also want you to be aware that there is a bias here because I do have a working relationship with Tidewe. Tidewe has provided a coupon code for me and my channel. It's TBS18, that stands for the Budget Sportsman 18, and that is the amount of money, 18%, that you will save if you use my coupon code on almost any product on Tidewe's website, and then I receive a commission for that as well. On the other hand, there's also affiliate programs and commissions that I'll receive for almost all of these rangefinders, either through the company's affiliate program or through Amazon's affiliate program as well. So let's dive in talking about each one of these budget rangefinders, and we'll start with the Tidewe HR-F700. Now, I want to mention that I'm going to focus mostly on the Tidewe HR-F700 over the Mini because currently the Mini is not available on Tidewe's website. I thought maybe it was discontinued, but then just before hitting record for this video, I noticed that it is available on Amazon. So I'll bring this in and talk about it a little bit, but I didn't plan on it because I did not see it available on Tidewe's website. The HR-F700 is a budget rangefinder at a great price. Currently on Tidewe's website, it's $80. But if you use that coupon code TBS18, it will bring it down to about $65. It's always a good idea, however, to compare between Tidewe's website and Amazon because sometimes you get a better deal one place than the other. Just be aware that my coupon code only works on Tidewe's website. This is the 700 model, which has a max ranging distance of 700, but there's also one that's a 1,000-yard max ranging distance, but that one is a little bit more expensive. Now, one of the things I really appreciate about the Tidewe rangefinder is just the build quality and the ergonomics. We'll talk about another one on the table here that's a budget rangefinder that's actually more expensive than this, but it really is not great in the area of ergonomics. And this one has a nice little curve right here. It fits my hand well. The buttons are in the right place to where you're not searching for them or hunting for them on the top here. They have a really nice amount of click. And it has all the features that I would want, like 1/10 of a yard readouts, angle compensation, scan mode, all of the basic features that I want, particularly as a bow hunter, the Tidewe rangefinder has. It also has a charging port with a rechargeable battery that's built in, not replaceable, and it recharges with a USB-C cord, which is becoming the standard today, and I really appreciate. I do want to mention the case that it comes with. You can see it's a camo case, and it has a magnetic closure here. You slip it in and just quietly can close that case. It doesn't have a loop for a carabiner like some of the other ones I'll show you in a moment, but it does have a belt slot here, so this is perfect for putting on your hip quiver, your backpack, a strap of your backpack, or even your belt. I do want to mention the Tidewe Mini just for a moment. It has some of the same features. It's built, I believe, out of metal. It feels very durable and has some of that same contour. It recharges with USB-C, has all the same features, even a very similar case. I think this case I actually like a little bit better. It's a little bit more snug fit. and the magnet is a little bit stronger magnet, which I do appreciate. And again, all the same features. And on Amazon right now, it's a very similar price to the HR-F700. I just thought I would mention that briefly. Next up, let's talk about the INKERMA rangefinder. Now, until recently, I had never heard of INKERMA, and they have several different models. This is in their Hunter X line, and even within the Hunter X line, there are several different models available. One that is an 800-yard max ranging distance, one that's a 1,000-yard max ranging distance, and one that is 1,200 yards max ranging distance. And we're going to talk about the 800-yard model because, of course, that is the most budget-friendly version, coming in at $70 on Amazon. Now, right out of the gate here, I just want to mention the size of the INKERMA is very similar to the Tidewe Mini. And I appreciate something this size because it's so easy to slip into my pocket or into my pack when I'm going out hunting. It doesn't feel bulky in a pocket, and I really appreciate this size. In fact, the Tidewe Mini is the one that recently has been in my pack or my pocket when I'm out hunting. And so the INKERMA here is a very similar size. The Tidewe does have a little bit of contour here where the INKERMA does not, but they are very, 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 very close in size. One thing you're going to notice about the INKERMA when you pull it out is it is plastic construction. Though it doesn't feel like super cheapy plastic, it feels pretty good, but it is very smooth. There's no contour, there's no grooves, there's no rubberized coating on any portion of it. It is just smooth plastic. But overall, it feels like fairly durable construction. It has all the features that I look for, like angle compensation, scan mode, 1/10 of a yard readout. However, it does not do 1/10 of a yard readout once you get out into longer distances. Then it transfers over to just whole numbers. It is rechargeable, again, with USB-C, and it feels pretty good in the hands. For some folks, you may find it a little bit too small, but for me, I love the size to fit in my pocket. The buttons are in the right place. They feel good in their location. They don't have quite as much click as the Tidewe rangefinders, but I wouldn't call them mushy. The case that it comes with is kind of a hard, durable case, and with a zipper, when you open it up, it has a small pocket inside for some accessories or your charging cord, and a little bit of elastic here to put your rangefinder inside. Now, while this case feels super durable and very rugged, this would be great for maybe, throwing in a bin of hunting stuff and not worrying about it getting squashed. There's no place to attach a carabiner to this. There's no way to attach this to your belt. There's really no way to attach this to anything. This is something you're just going to be able to throw in your pack. And honestly, for me, this is going to probably go in the bottom of a drawer, and I'm going to end up just hanging onto the rangefinder and sticking it in my pocket. Next up is a rangefinder from Gogogo. Now, we have tested some rangefinders from Gogogo before with sort of mixed results, but this one seems pretty decent. It's the Sport Vpro, and I believe the exact model number is the GS19B, and the B stands for backlight, indicating that it does have a red display. There's also a version of this that does not have the red display that's a little bit cheaper. Currently on Amazon, the price of the backlit version is $85, and the non-backlit version is $75. Let me address that backlight right off the bat. I would assume that it would work much better in dim conditions and that you would be able to see the display much better. Now, unfortunately, I didn't entirely find that to be true in my limited testing, but the red is nice. It does stand out nicely against some dark colors. Also keep in mind that I've mentioned before that I've got some color blindness, so the red may not look exactly the same to me as you, but I found that in really, really dim or dark conditions, it didn't stand out all that much better than a typical black display. Once again, the Gogogo has all of the features that I would expect, like angle compensation, scan mode, 1/10 of a yard readout, everything that I've come to expect even from budget rangefinders. Now, you can probably see in comparison to something like the INKERMA, it's quite a bit longer. Let me see, a little bit thicker. One interesting note here is it does have tripod threads on the bottom, which I found pretty interesting. I don't know how useful that would be, but you might find a use for it. Again, it does recharge with USB-C, and I do appreciate, again, the little bit of contour that they've put here. The overall coating of this feels like it has sort of like a soft touch coating. It feels really good. My only concern is that I've had equipment before, particularly in the video and audio space, with this kind of a coating that if they got really hot and cold and over time that coating began to wear off and just become sticky. I don't know that that's what's going to happen to this, so I'm not trying to make any statement about it other than that would be a concern of mine long term. This contour though makes it feel really good in the hands. In fact, probably as far as how it feels in the hands, it feels better than some of these mini rangefinders, but it is going to be bulkier in your pocket. The buttons again are in the right place. You can probably hear that pretty clicky, and I appreciate the click. It feels really good. I think I already mentioned it, but it does recharge with USB-C, and overall, it feels good in the hands. It looks good. Now, I have a complaint here with the Gogogo rangefinder, and that is the case. Now, I've tried some budget rangefinders from Gogogo before, and typically they have been bulky and not feel really good in the hands. This feels good in the hands, but it seems as though what they did is they used the case from those bulky rangefinders for this slimmer and more sleek rangefinder. So when I drop this in there, I mean, it fits fine, but I don't know if you can see this, but I can bunch this up on one side, and there's all kind of extra room and all kind of extra material. It just feels floppy. It does have a magnetic snap here. It's not built into the material and buried in the material like the Tidewe rangefinder, so it's going to be a little bit louder. It does have a little mesh pocket on the outside. Maybe you could put your charging cord, something like that. It does have a belt loop as well as a little loop where you can put a carabiner. But we'll give you more of our final thoughts on this after our accuracy testing. Now, the final rangefinder in this year's comparison video is a Wosports rangefinder. Now, I've tested Wosports rangefinders on at least 2 previous videos, but neither one of those had angle compensation. And I told them I really need one with angle compensation. And this year they finally got me one that is angle compensation. So this is, I believe, called the bow hunter model. If you go on Amazon and find this rangefinder, they'll have a bow hunter and a non-bow hunter model. You want to make sure you get the bow hunter model that has the angle compensation built into it. And this rangefinder, though, comes in for the bow hunter model at $100. And we're going to have to find out, is it worth it? The most expensive rangefinder from Wosports. And right out of the gate, I can tell you one way that I don't think it's worth it. This does not have a rechargeable battery. Instead, it has a replaceable CR2 battery. Now, this is a big deal to me because CR2 batteries are not really that readily accessible. I'm out on a hunting trip somewhere. I'm not just going to run down to the dollar store and pick one of these up. Whereas all these other ones that recharge with USB-C, I can recharge them before season and they're going to last me all season anyways. But even if they do go dead, I've almost always got a USB-C charger around. My phone charges with USB-C, and just about everything in my life seems to charge with USB-C. I've always got a charger around to recharge these rangefinders. But CR2 battery, not going to be nearly as accessible. If you do want a version of this Wosports rangefinder with a rechargeable battery, you can buy it for an extra $10. It's $110 on Amazon, while this model with the CR2 battery is $100. Now, also right out of the gate, another reason why I'm not sure this is going to be worth $100 is this is a bulky rangefinder. To me, ergonomics matters. How it feels in my hand every time I pull it out and range on the range or in the field, it matters to me. And this is thick. It's very thick in this profile, pretty tall here. It is rounded over on the edges, which helps, but it still just feels so chunky in the hands. It has a rubbery coating here on the bottom and the top, which again, feels pretty good, but it's just covering a very bulky rangefinder. The plastic itself feels very, very chintzy, and not really a fan of that. Now, I will say it has all the modes and features that I want. It has that bow hunter angle compensation mode. It reads in 1/10 of a yard readings. It has scan mode, all the things that I would want in a rangefinder, this one has. But the replaceable battery instead of rechargeable battery and the bulkiness of it is making it feel to me right out of the gate like it may not be worth that $100 price tag when there's other cheaper options already on the table. Let's look at the case, and the case itself is pretty decent. It slides in there just fine. It has a magnetic closure, very similar to the Tidewe cases, and I don't really have a complaint about this particular case, other than the fact that it is big because the rangefinder in it is big. Excuse the lanyard here that I didn't put on the rangefinder clipped here, but it does have a little loop to put a carabiner as well as a belt loop, and so I don't really have a concern with the case, but it is just a little bit bulky because the rangefinder itself is bulky. So with the initial impressions out of the way and the initial features, let's go ahead and go outside and do some accuracy testing, and I'll come back and give you my final thoughts and conclusions. We're outside now to do some accuracy testing of these 4 different rangefinders. Now, when I say accuracy testing, I'm not going to range an object and then get a super long tape measure to confirm that number. Rather, what I'm going to do is I'm going to range different objects just around the backyard here, and I'm going to range each object several times with the same rangefinder to see how consistent its own results are, if it's bouncing all over the map or if it's giving a consistent number. But then we'll also range with each different rangefinder to see if there's one that maybe is coming in a little bit short or one that's coming in a little bit long. How consistent are they across 4 different brands of rangefinders? So we're going to go ahead and start by ranging an electrical panel on the back side of this building over here. It's a very consistent place to range, and we'll start with the Tidewe. I've got angle compensation turned on with all of these, and I'm going to be using the angle compensated number just that way in case there's any variance in my angle or anything like that. Hopefully we're getting somewhat of a consistent result. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the Tidewe on this box over here. 28.9, 28.9, 28.9, 28.9. So I think that was 4 clicks, and every time it gave me the exact same number, 28.9. Let's go to the INKERMA next. 29.3, 29.3, 29.3, 29.3. So again, very, very consistent and showing about 0.4 of a yard longer than the Tidewe rangefinder. Next, let's do the Gogogo. 29, 29.7, 28.8, 28.8, 29.5, 28.9. So it's giving some numbers very similar to some of the other rangefinders, but it is bouncing around a good bit more, having a good bit more variance all the way up to, I think, almost a whole yard increment of variance there. Let's try the Wosports now. 30.6, 30.6, 30.6, and 30.6. Is very confident in his number. It's very consistent on that test, but it's showing a whole yard and a half more than some of the other rangefinders. So now let's turn over here. I'll do the next test. This tree over here, we'll try to hit the tree at the same spot every time. Again, we'll start with the Tidewe rangefinder. 57.8, 57.9, 57.9, 58. So we had from 57.8 up to 58 on the Tidewe rangefinder. Next up will be the INKERMA. 57, 57, 57, and 57. So this one was actually about 0.4 of a yard longer than the Tidewe on the last test. This time it's coming in a little bit shorter, almost a whole yard. 57.3, 57.4, 57.1, 57.1, 57.3. So it was a little bit of variance there, not as much as it seemed to be on the first one, and reading pretty close to the INKERMA on that one as well. And then finally, the Wosports rangefinder. 59.3, 59.3, 59.3, 60. So it's reading several yards more at a 60-yard distance than some of the others. I think we had a range in there of 57 and all the way up to 60 on this one, but all of these three rangefinders were pretty much within a yard. Some seem to be a little bit closer than others. Finally, I'm going to do one more test over this way. It's a long shot over to a building over 200 yards, and I'm shooting through a couple of little branches and stuff, and so this will be a good test to see how wide of a beam do these things have? Are they going to just constantly hit branches and stuff rather than being able to shoot through the little opening that I have? Again, we'll start with the Tidewe rangefinder. 246.9. There I hit 26, so I hit something. 246.9. There I hit something again. 246.9. 246.9. So I did hit the branches several times, but I was able to get through and get very consistent results at 246.9 yards. Let's try the INKERMA next. 246, so we're pretty close there already. 246, 246, 246. Now, one thing to take note here is the INKERMA is not giving me 1/10 of a yard readings at that distance where some of the other rangefinders are, but the Tidewe was 246.9, the INKERMA 246. Let's try the Gogogo. 248, 248, 248, 27. I was catching something close there. 248. I hit a branch again, and 248. So far we're with about a 2-yard variance. The Gogogo is a little bit longer than the other two, it appears, although maybe only about a yard longer than the Tidewe. And the Gogogo, excuse me, the Wosports is 249, 247.8, 249, 26, I'm hitting a branch, 25, There we go, 249.2, 249.1. So overall, it does seem like the Wosports is consistently just a little bit longer than the rest. It may only be a yard or 2 or 3 yards sometimes, but it does seem to be consistently longer than the rest. The other three, the Tidewe, the INKERMA, and the Gogogo, all seem to be pretty close to each other. Sometimes one's a little longer than the other, sometimes one's a little shorter than the other, but overall they seem to be all pretty close. I would say the Tidewe and the INKERMA are more consistent, while the Gogogo tends to give a little bit more variation in its results. All right, well, that was a pretty interesting test, and I hope that it helps some of you make an informed buying decision. But before I give you my final thoughts and conclusions, I do want to mention one more test that I performed. You see, a lot of times the Achilles heel of budget rangefinders is that they don't perform very well in fog. A few mornings ago, we had some foggy conditions, so I went out back, I took these rangefinders and I tested them in the fog, and sure enough, all but one of them performed pretty poorly in those conditions. They would return results between 5 and 15 yards, even if I was ranging objects at 30, 40, 50, or 200 yards. Apparently, the laser somehow reflects off of the fog and gives inaccurate results. The one that did perform well, giving me what seemed to be accurate results even in conditions out to 200 yards with fog, was the INKERMA. So I was pretty impressed that the INKERMA was able to do what pretty much none of these other rangefinders were able to accomplish. All right, so now let me give you my final thoughts and conclusions on these different rangefinders, starting with the Tidewe rangefinders, and we're going to lump these together. I still think these are some of my favorite and best rangefinders on a budget on the market. Now, I'm not saying they're far and away better than anything else, because there are some rangefinders on the table today that I think give them a run for their money, and there were some good contenders in last year's video as well. But I still think these are a very, very solid option, and they're probably, for me, still my favorite. I love the ergonomics, they have all the features that I want, I enjoy the case that they come with, and I was really impressed in the consistency that I got out of this rangefinder in the accuracy testing. I was getting very consistent results, and it seemed, as far as accuracy, that it was right there with the other rangefinders. So I still think these are very, very solid options, and they're also tested in the community and have very good reviews for the most part. Now, I will say, again, the Achilles heel of these budget rangefinders, and the Tidewe isn't an exception, it does struggle with fog. If you do want to pick up one of the Tidewe rangefinders, don't forget to use that coupon code TBS18. That way you can save yourself 18%. Next up is the INKERMA. And if there was one rangefinder on the table today that I would say really gives the Tidewe a run for their money, it would be the INKERMA rangefinder. Again, I love the size, similar to the Tidewe Mini, and it just fits good in the hand. It fits good in my pocket. It's small, it's compact. I would say the build quality of the Tidewe Mini is a little bit better with some metal construction, where this is plastic and there's really no grip or grit to it at all. But I was very impressed, again, with the consistency. This was probably the most consistent rangefinder in our accuracy testing. Seemed to be very accurate as well. And I was so impressed that this rangefinder worked well in the fog. I think it's a very viable option. The one thing that I was disappointed about, however, was this case. If you don't care about a case, then maybe it doesn't matter, but this is just not a very useful case with no belt loop, no way to attach it or really make this a functional case other than just for storage. Overall, though, at $70, I do think the INKERMA is a solid option. The Gogogo rangefinder, the GS19B, is probably one of the best Gogogo rangefinders that I've ever tested. It just feels way better in the hands than some of the previous models. That backlit display is a nice touch. The buttons feel good. The touch coating on the rangefinder feels pretty good. Overall, I do like this rangefinder. However, there are some drawbacks for me. One is, again, this case is just kind of weird. It doesn't fit well at all. But more importantly than the case is the inconsistent results that we were getting with this rangefinder. While the average of the results was pretty close to the INKERMA and the Tidewe rangefinders, it was inconsistent. So you don't ever know, unless you range multiple times and do the math what the average is, if you're getting that accurate number. There were times that it would be off by a whole yard over 3 or 4 different ranges. And for me, that's kind of a big deal, because I want to have accurate numbers. Now, again, for the most part, is that yard or two going to make a difference at 20 or 30 yards hunting with a bow? Maybe not. Is it going to make a difference at 200 yards with a rifle? Maybe not. I don't know, but it just disappointed me a little bit in the Gogogo rangefinder. Again, overall, a much better offering than I think we've had from Gogogo in the past. I like this rangefinder better than the previous models, and I don't think it's a bad model. I do think it's worth your consideration, if you understand the limitations. Again, this also struggled with fog as well. Finally, the last model on the table is the Wosports. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I have a really hard time recommending this rangefinder. It's big and bulky in the hands. It does not have a rechargeable battery. And really the deal breaker for me was that it was noticeably different ranges than all the other rangefinders on the table. It was consistently a yard or 2 yards longer than everything else. Again, that just does not breed confidence in my rangefinder. And when there's already issues like the bulkiness and the non-rechargeable battery, this is just not a rangefinder that I think I would purchase, particularly at $100. If this was cheaper than every other rangefinder on the table, then it might be something that I would consider. But when it's more expensive than every other rangefinder on the table, it's going to get eliminated pretty quickly in my mind. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you to make an informed buying decision. Again, if you would, please help me out. Use the links down in the description to find these on Amazon or on the manufacturer's website. Those links will help me out and they won't cost you anything extra, and they might even save you some money if you use the coupon code listed below. Let me know what you think of these rangefinders in the comments. Which one would you choose? And until next time, remember to get off YouTube and get outdoors into God's great creation.